Lando Norris goes back to back as F1 returns from the summer break with the final race for a while in Zandvoort. We've got it all covered for you here on the formation lap with Todd and Brad, regular guys talking elite racing. Welcome back, fans. It feels good to be back into race form after a summer break. But as I mentioned, Lando with back-to-back wins, he is definitely on a charge and trying to get back into the drivers' championship picture. Big weekend for Mercedes as Mercedes gets a double podium in the race on Sunday.
Yeah.
They had a good sprint race. Todd, your team Ferrari looked competitive, but had some execution questions that we're going to talk about.
Again.
And then, of course, Max Verstappen. We
Oh
mentioned
yeah.
that Zandvoort. This is going to be the last race for a while. Everyone was really excited to watch Max race and crashes out on lap one. Really hate it for him. So Todd, I welcome you in here. It feels good to be back racing. Feels good to be back to our checkered flag. Our formation lap checkered flag recap. Todd, it was an eventful race in Zandvoort on Sunday. So I'll welcome you in here.
Yeah, Brad, it's good to be back, and it was a good race to watch. It was, like you said, a little disappointed that Max. I mean, it was crazy, and then you saw it was Boratello, was it, or who, or was it
Was it
Colapinto?
Colapinto? Oh, that spun around. I'm
Uh,
having trouble
it
remembering right
spun around
now.
to the same
Yeah,
spot, so it was a little wet, and
absolutely.
when you saw Max's, on his home race, I mean, I mean, it's pretty hard wreck that he, took there too, crash.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, and it's sad that we're not going to be able to see Zandvoort again. As you read, it's a privately run business, and they're just not going to be there anymore. And
Right,
we thought that they would be back and forth, every so often, but right now it doesn't look like that. But
right.
I mean, what a race! And yeah, Lando, I picked him as my podium winner.
You did. You
So
did.
there we go. And Ferrari, yeah, it was crazy. But let me tell you, McLaren has figured out whatever it is, and those quiet moments that matter, as we kind of talked about what we learned, through the summer specials. He lost the lead, but he stayed patient, and he then managed that race, and he took it back, and he knew it. And if you watch some of his interviews, Brad, I mean, he was there and knew
Hmm.
what he was supposed to do, and he knew he
Hmm.
had the car, and that was what was great. So I think we've got some real momentum now
Yeah.
here instead of just Hungary being a great upgrades and make it happen. I mean, he went out and fought it. And is McLaren now going to be the new one? I mean, they're a Mercedes customer, right? But they have figured it out, and they're showing what McLaren can do. And they were even talking, what, they're only 89 points behind Kimmy. Is this doable? Max this time last year was 101
Yep.
behind. So you saw what happened there. But, you know, it was an exciting race, sprint, a lot of things. But, Brad, is this McLaren finding yet another level, you think? Or is Lando finding another level, or both?
It's both, and I'm going to start on the McLaren side. Look, I'm man, my team so proud of them. It was really rough the first, what, 6, 7, 8 races.
Yeah.
Came with an amazing upgrade package there in Hungary that saw Lando really just kind of dominate. And I mean, he had to grind out that win on Sunday.
He did.
It reminded me, Todd, of an American football team that they're not playing their best on game day, and they just kind of find a way to win it. And that's what Lando, gets sprint, and I'm sorry, gets pole, and everyone's like, okay, McLaren's really good for that one lap of pace, but that's different than the race, especially with two Mercedes hot on his tail. And of course, they have another standing start after Max's crash because it
Yeah.
was red
It's a red
flag,
flag. Yeah.
and Kimmy with a beautiful move. Kimmy took the
He
inside.
did.
He got track position. But Todd, this is to me where it's Lando just finding another level. A couple years ago, before championship, before
Yeah.
championship season, and I would say Todd, a more immature from a race standpoint, Lando, he would have gotten flustered, he would have gotten frustrated, and might have even lost out on a podium. You're
Yeah.
seeing now, and Todd, I think with Lando, and like I said, he's my guy. He's my favorite racer. I mean, I've been following him since his inaugural F1 season when he was 18 or 19 years old. So I mean, I've seen this guy. I've seen so many races. I think a mature Lando. Now he was forged in the fire by by those battles with Max. I mean, we know
I agree.
Max is a killer on the track. He does not mess around. He will absolutely dive bomb. He's very aggressive. I think those kind of battles with Max and some others obviously have made Lando a smarter racer, a more mature racer. And you're seeing a lot of growth from Lando, and he is, man, he is. This is the best driving I've seen this year. I remember us talking, really after Miami, where he was on the podium. It was like, okay, Lando's just kind of staying patient. He's letting things happen in front. Guys are either their tires are falling off a cliff, or
Right.
guys are the engines are crashing out or whatever. And Lando was just kind of manufacturing points to where now we're to the point now where McLaren has made some upgrades, and Lando's battling. Look, I mean, I hate to jump ahead here, but I think Lando is definitely in the battle here. As far as McLaren's team, Oscar's struggling, and I don't know what's going on with that. I think Oscar has struggled to just find his rhythm as far as
Yeah.
maintaining the battery and everything. And I think Oscar will find it eventually, but Lando's hot right now, and he's on a different level. I mean, he really is.
Yeah, and Brad, I'm with you there because I think the quiet moments matter here because what
Yes.
you're saying is Lando, he learned,
Mm-hmm.
as you said, and he's watched Max do this many
Yep.
times and just jump on opportunities, and I think that you're exactly right, and we'll figure out what Oscar figured it out, but
Yeah.
I thought it was great, and hey, he won, and in your fantasy league, you chose Lando, so there you
I
go.
did. I
You got
did.
to be a happy guy, and so yeah, let's move on to reading the pit wall,
Yeah.
and what I mean by that is, folks, we talked about it over summer break. That pit wall is watching things, and here's Mercedes, late with the VSC changes, everything, and they pit Kimmy, and then he falls behind George, and then George, does this. Mercedes then on the radio was like, "Hey, George, you need to let Kimmy pass." And George is like, "What are you talking about?" And of course, we found out they had agreed to that ahead. But this is reading the pit wall, what's going on, because they were trying to chase down Lando, and he was even that fast, right? And then you got to manage, and what a pass Lando made on
Oh my
Kimmy.
goodness.
And then Lewis, he was upset. We'll talk about it in a minute, but
Yeah.
he might not have been in that position if Ferrari had done a strategy right. But the pass that he made on those two was unbelievable. So, the double podium, despite the complexity, they finished it off, and
Hmm.
they managed it well from the pit wall on a crazy day. And so, Brad, smart execution, or did Mercedes just create unnecessary risk?
Todd, I think it was smart execution. I think it was smart to. We saw, I mean, and we obviously watched the race separate, but we saw that Kimmy, even on those hard tires, Todd, I think after what 4 or 5 laps, he was complaining to Bono, his race engineer. He said,
Yeah.
"Bono, you gotta get me off these, you gotta get me off these tires." And so, once again, as we talked about in our, you know, beyond the checkered flag and in our summer break episode, that's Bono and all these other guys, all their other race engineers. That's what they're looking for. They're like, hey, if that VSC, if that virtual safety car or a full safety car comes out, we get a chance to cut that pit stop in half. So I'm okay with it, Todd. I think this is really, I think it's interesting too that I think George Russell's starting to realize, hey, um, I'm not the guy here. And,
Yep.
I
Yep.
commend him because that's tough. George is definitely not out of the championship. Yes, he's behind Lewis. He's got a charge in Lando. Charles is still in the conversation. But I think George we're starting to get into the point of the season where if George is ahead of Kimmy and George isn't necessarily fighting for the win, team orders are going to start coming up more and more. I feel
Yep.
like, and unfortunately, that falls on these race engineers, as you said, reading the pit wall to know that, hey, Toto Wolff's on the, talking to George's race engineer, telling, hey, we need to tell George to get out of the way. Kimmy's battling for a world championship here,
That's
and
right.
it doesn't affect our constructors championship, but we need to let this kid by. So, look, commend. I like the Mercedes strategy. Lando was so good on those hard tires, and Kimi wasn't catching them, but it was still a chance for Kimi to put up some good points. And Todd, the reality is he lost points to Lando, but he extended points over Charles, Lewis, and George. And at the end of the day, that right now is really what matters. But
That's exactly right.
Lando is charging.
Yeah, and I think Toto wasn't expecting Lando because they
No,
George won the sprint, and
right.
but then George had terrible start, and
Yes, awful start.
it's just there's more to it. There's something going on.
Right,
I mean, he got
right.
engaged, right? So maybe he's thinking about his wedding or something. But anyway, so that's the pit wall. And now let's talk about the race behind the race. And this is the Ferrari guys. Oh man, I was getting frustrated. They were doing well too. Charles was pushing. They were running different races, and you could tell that. And that was fun. And then they had the Mercedes guys ahead right at the very two starts. They were
Hmm.
in the mix, and then they just started falling behind. And we saw that Lewis's car was doing well, but then Ferrari didn't bring him in when he wanted to come in. And Charles, I mean, I think, in my opinion, Lewis would have been on the podium
Yeah.
if they had not messed up the strategy. And if you watch some of his interviews, he was not happy
No, not at
at
all.
all. And even if you listen to the radio, he was like, "Fix it," whatever this is. And so they knew about it. And Lewis, you can tell he wants to be the number one driver. He loves, but he says, "I want to be number one." And look what I'm doing. And it's crazy. Ferrari, I think they're as we said, they're making some mistakes, and the other ones are taking advantage of the mistakes. And Ferrari could have done it, but Ferrari had enough pace to make it happen. But instead, talk to me, Brad. What did you see from execution?
I think you hit the nail on the head. To me, Todd, it was just like Ferrari was just kind of second guessing themselves the whole way. It's like, do we bring Lewis in and do we not? And we folks, we talked about over our summer break episodes, who truly has the lead, and the guy that is in first place may not really be in first place. And Todd, that to me was kind of Lewis. Lewis was a little bit of no man's land. Yes, they're late in
Yeah,
the race. After Kimi pitted and Lando pitted, yes, Lewis had the lead, but because those guys were on way fresher tires, they were going to pass Lewis eventually. Even though
yeah,
Zandvoort's an extremely tough track, and so Todd, I'm with you. They chose not to pit Lewis, and we knew Lewis was not going to battle with Lando and Kimi for 1 and 2, but he could have absolutely gone and hunted down George, in my opinion. So I don't know.
yeah.
I feel it, Todd. I really feel like our two teams, Ferrari and McLaren, it's just these little hiccups that they have. It's where they second guess themselves. They almost overthink things on the strategy thing, and then Todd, it was just kind of going a little bit further than that. Kind of talking about this race beyond the race, man, it feels like we saw so many teams struggling with the pit stops on Sunday, where
Yeah, we did.
it was not 2.5 to 3 seconds, it was 4 to 5 seconds,
5 seconds.
and
Yeah,
that is so costly because that's track position that's coming out in heavy traffic to where you're having to make extra passes to where that degrades your tires more. So lot going on, but yeah, little bit of a tough day for Ferrari. Still good points, but look, ultimately they lost more points from Mercedes because Mercedes got the double podium, and Lewis and Charles finished 4-5.
that's exactly right. Yet again, that's kind of where they're hanging out. But we'll see what happens. So let's talk about beyond Max's crash. Let's talk about Red Bull. I mean, we had Liam there, right? And he did well. He fought Max there at the beginning a little bit,
Yeah,
and then, but if Max, let's look at it beyond the crash. It's a terrible thing that happened
right,
in his home course, and I mean, thank goodness he was able to walk away, right?
absolutely.
But do they have a winning car? I don't know, and I don't think it's a circuit. They've got the best engine, but it's just starting to show, in my opinion, that they're not doing well. But the Racing Bulls are, nipping at their heels almost.
Yeah,
What do you
yeah.
think, Brad?
You absolutely. And Todd, I remember I was watching I believe it was the qualifying on Saturday, or it may have even been the sprint race on Saturday. And the commentators on Sky Sports were pushing. They said, we need to see Max and the Racing Bulls. The Racing Bulls engineers and that team have made those cars just so drivable because, Todd, I'm going to tell you, Liam and Arvid have been tremendous. But even Yuki, who is
Yeah,
not really,
Yuki.
he's not really driven in these cars that much. I mean, he finishes in P11,
I know.
which is great. I mean, um, yeah, Red Bull. I don't know. it's very complicated. It's Liam really did a good job, and man, I hate it for Liam because they gave up on him way too early last year,
Yeah.
and they really did, and I do think Isaac is a really good fit for them. I think he's one that he's not going to back down to Max, and I think they need that. But I don't know. Red Bull is just very, very. It's cut and dry to me that Todd, they're out of the big four. They're number four right now, and they don't watch it. Racing Bulls is gonna catch them, and that would be. I mean, we're talking about fifth. If they finish fifth in constructors, that's an extremely disappointing position. And Todd, I saw something today. This is the longest stretch Max has gone without a win since 2017. Since 20, that's mind blowing. I mean, we're talking about a
That
guy.
is.
We're talking about a guy the past couple years where he hasn't even been close to having the best car, and
No.
he's still found a way to get wins. And it's been a really tough year. And just to kind of preview, we're going to talk about in a special episode later this week about Max's contract, what that means for him, what that means for Red Bull. But
Yeah.
Red Bull's got some things to figure out. And Todd, you wonder is do they just kind of say, we're gonna just kind of hold the status quo here for the rest of 2026 and focus on 2027. But also, that may not make Max happy either. So
No,
they
I mean, he signed a pretty good deal. We'll talk about it a little bit, right? But he must have seen something that was of interest
yeah.
for him to sign. Not that the other teams weren't, but it's almost like they don't want to win,
Hmm.
and it's like, and maybe they're restricted. It's things that we don't know, right? But
Right,
yeah,
right.
we'll go there anyway. But we'll talk a little more about that. And Liam looked good, and I think he's finally figured out who he is.
Yeah.
And thank goodness he was able to drive both teams. That's rare. So, Brad, let's talk about trending up, trending down. Just real quick, one sentence thing. And if where I go, Norris, he's at Lando's going up. McLaren
Yep.
is figured out; they're going up. Kimmy, no matter what's thrown at him, he is continuing to figure it out. And I think we're seeing a legend. And then Mercedes is consistent, and they
Hmm.
ain't doing it. So that's my trending up. What about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go three quick ones here. I'm going Audi as a team. Nico Hulkenberg gets in the points, great for him. Bortoletto in 13th, he's not far off, but Todd, to me, Audi is. I won't say they're at Racing Bulls level yet, but I think they're challenging the Alpines right now, which they technically they outscore the Alpines.
That's true.
Um, number two for me. Would have to be Liam Lawson. I mean, this guy is just so consistent. And look, P7, I know he wanted more, but he was Red Bull's sole point winner at the end of the year. And,
Yeah.
and it's crazy to think, Todd, that he's going to end up jumping back to Red Bulls possibly next week. We'll see if Isaac's back. So that's interesting. Number three for me, and hey, hats off to this guy. Fernando Alonso. I won't say that Aston Martin is trending up, but Fernando is. That was a huge
It
result
was.
for
It
them
was.
because Lance Stroll didn't even finish the race. So I mean, that's hey, hats off to Fernando. That was huge.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, and it's good to see him back. And I think Honda's going to figure it out. It might be too
Absolutely,
late, but they'll
absolutely.
get it. But trending down, we talked about it. Red Bull,
Hmm.
just not Max championship momentum. I mean, it's not there. And then
No,
we talked about Oscar. I think
yeah.
Oscar is not there. And then again, my team strategy. But what do you got?
Todd, for me, I'm going to go Charles a little bit, and this is not a dramatic, but I, Charles to me really since Silverstone he hadn't looked competitive, which has been a little surprising to me. I thought after that Silverstone when Charles was going to be hot, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm with you. I'm wondering, Todd, if there's a little bit of an internal battle going on between and I think Lewis and Charles get along fine, and I think Fred has obviously built a very, very good. He's built a good culture there at Ferrari, but I do wonder if Charles is struggling with a little bit of, hey, I'm the long term guy here. I've signed a big contract, but I don't quite feel number one. So Charles to me
Yeah.
seems a little bit off. Um,
Yeah.
Man, Williams. I mean, they just. I was expecting more of them. They're in a Mercedes engine, and they're just really, really struggling. Albon retires. Carlos finishes 16th, so nothing positive for them. And then I just wanted to hit on Oscar just real quick before we kind of start to wrap things up. Man, I enjoy watching Oscar. He is just Mr. Cool up there. Doesn't really get flustered, but he's had some bad form. I'm interested to see these next couple of races if he can find his form because he should not be this far behind Lando. And I'm hoping
Yeah.
Oscar's going to start to get some podiums back, but he's got to find something for sure.
Yeah, I agree. So, Brad, as we get ready to go into Monza, right? That's the Italian thing, red versus papaya here.
Mm.
You know, okay, you get to glow a little bit now, but I think one of the Ferrari guys is going to, bring it up to the front. What do you think about versus papaya as we go into next week?
Honestly, I agree. I think this is a track that is suited for Lewis. I think he's going to do well here. I can't the way Lando's driving. I can't count out Lewis.
Yeah,
And
right.
honestly, Todd, not to get too far ahead because this will come next week, but I could see on the podium. I could see it being the top three constructors: McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes, all bowing there. It's man, I love this track. It's going to be really really good to get back to Monza. Um,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a fun one. It's gonna be a
And
fun
we'll
one
see if
for
they get
sure.
some of the quirks, like you said, the pit wall. Maybe everybody took too much time off, and a couple of drivers, but
Right,
we'll see. But Zandvoort told us, kind of where the summer break, and they'll all get refocused, and then
right,
Monza tell us, who's the real championship
right.
here. But yeah, so Brad, I'm excited, and we can close it up here, but
Yeah,
we'll bring one up maybe later this week.
absolutely. Yeah. So just kind of preview for everyone here on the formation lap. We're gonna have an episode coming out later this week. It'll probably be Friday, maybe Saturday, but we're gonna just kind of talk about Max's big extension. We mentioned this a few minutes ago, but what it means for Max, what it means for Red Bull. We're also going to talk about the Williams guys. We've talked about just a second ago. Williams has been really on the back foot. But they see something with Carlos, they see something with Alex Albon, so we're going to talk about that. And then finally, talking about Cadillac, they make a move in the middle of the season in their inaugural season in F1. They change team principals and a team that we really haven't talked about. So that'll be good for us to get to talk about an American team here on the channel. But
Yeah.
stay tuned for that. And then just real quick, Todd mentioned it, but kind of what is next in Monza? Of course, it's Ferrari's home race. Todd, you can be proud of that,
There
but
you go.
huge expectations. You're going to see all the flags. You're going to see all the Ferrari red, but big expectations. Of course, McLaren has got the momentum right now. We're going to see if Lando can keep that going. Can Oscar get some momentum? Mercedes is still that championship benchmark, and then Red Bull. They got to find some answers. Hopefully, Isaac's back. Hopefully, Max is able to get back with a little momentum. Todd, this is something we haven't talked about, and this is going to be interesting. Kimmy possibly facing a grid penalty
Yep.
because of the power unit changes. Does George have one as well coming up, or is it just
Nope.
Kimmy? Okay, so it's
Just
just
kidding.
Kimmy, and folks, we'll get more into that if it comes out in Monza, but that could be a huge championship implication. So watch out for that for sure.
Definitely so. Well, Brad, excited about
Yep,
us getting started again. It was a lot of
absolutely.
fun. We got to wait 2 weeks now, and
Yeah.
we'll talk a little more about it as we go in later this week.
Absolutely. No, thank you once again for joining us on the formation lap. As I mentioned, stay tuned for that episode later on this week. Going to be a special edition of Beyond the Checker Flag where we talk about what this means for these constructors. As always, please give this video a like, comment on what your thoughts were with the exciting race in Zandvoort over the weekend, and hit that subscribe button. We appreciate all the support here on the formation lap as we're just regular guys talking elite racing. But stay tuned. We have more content coming out, and we appreciate all the support. We'll see you next time. This is Todd and Brad signing off.